Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Serena Networking Conference 2009. I start the plenary, the opening session, and I will now give the floor to Mr. Víctor Muñoz. Víctor Muñoz is the Director of Research at the University of Málaga. Please, you have the floor.
Oh, it's working. Maybe. May I have you to turn off your microphone?
I don't know how.
Okay. No problem. In life. Welcome to the University of Malaga. This university is a pleasure to host this meeting. I apologize the presence here of the rector. The thing is that she's in a little trip to Brazil. And first I want to play a little introduction, a virtual introduction of the rector that will give you the welcome to the university.
Muy buenas tardes a todos los participantes en esta reunión anual de redes académicas. Permítanme que mis primeras palabras sean para disculparme por no poder estar personalmente con todos ustedes. Afortunadamente disponemos de la virtualidad y espero que esta imagen virtual pueda transmitir mis sentimientos reales, mis sentimientos de bienvenida, mis sentimientos de deseos, de buenos deseos, para que ustedes puedan disfrutar de unos días de trabajo y de amistad y de colaboración. Mis deseos para que conozcan nuestra querida universidad, la Universidad de Málaga. Conozcan sus centros, conozcan sus instalaciones y conozcan, ¿por qué no?, algunos lugares de especial relajación. Nuestro jardín botánico, que le tienen muy cerca, precisamente, del centro de la Facultad de Derecho, donde están ustedes teniendo esta reunión. Pero además quiero que esta labor que ustedes hacen tenga una repercusión social, que el ciudadano y la ciudadana de a pie sepan para qué sirve el trabajo y el buen hacer que ustedes llevan a cabo en el día a día. Pero no todo va a ser trabajo. También les quiero invitar a que disfruten en Málaga. Bienvenidos, disfruten y obtengan los mejores resultados. Muchas gracias.
Well, I have not anything to add anymore to this presentation, to little video. Please, hard work and enjoy of Malaga. And I hope that you interchange good experiences in this networking congress.
Good afternoon, virtual academic authorities, and also real academic authorities. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our law school. I would like to welcome you to this Serena conference, and I have to thank the organization of this great conference mainly for having chosen our law school for celebrating this great congress. I have to apologize about my voice. I'm supposed to be the voice of the law faculty of our law school today, but as you can hear, I can't do my best today. Sorry about my voice. This is not my real voice, but it isn't either my virtual voice. Unfortunately, it's my real voice today. Well, I hope you have a nice stay here in Malaga, that you can enjoy everything here in our town. I hope you have a very fruitful conference, and I'm sure you will work and network very, very hard. I have to thank, I have already said, I have to thank the organization of the conference, but mainly I would like to thank Victoriano Giralt, who has worked very, very hard and who has shown us he's an extraordinary organizer, and he is also an extraordinary person. Thank you very much for your help. Thank you very much for having chosen our school. And I would like to thank this election not only on my behalf, but of course on behalf of our decana, Professor Yolanda García Calvente, and of course on behalf of our previous decano, Alejandro Rodríguez Carrión, who died some weeks ago, and who was very very glad to have this celebration here, to have this conference here, and I'm sure he will be very proud. Thank you very much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to give a warm welcome to the Terena Networking Conference 2009. Last year, we celebrated the 20th anniversary of REDIRIS, the Spanish National Research and Education Network. Looking back, we can see all the benefits that the research networks have provided to Spain researchers, and how those networks have allowed them to collaborate with their colleagues in the rest of the world. Looking forward, we can see a truly changing world in which we will have to cope with a growing number of challenges. We think that the best way to prepare ourselves for the future is by sharing our views with all colleagues. And REDIRIS, the Spanish National Research and Education Network, is very proud to collaborate with the University of Malaga to host this year's Terena Networking Conference, which will be undoubtedly reveal new trends and new methods to improve the way we serve our users in this changing environment. We are delighted to host the conference this year because the Spanish Ministry of Science and Innovation, in collaboration with the Ministry of Tourism, Industry and Trade, has approved the development of a new optical research network called REDIRIS Nova. REDIRIS Nova will ensure that the Spanish scientific and academic community will have the network infrastructure and services needed to cooperate nationally and internationally under optimum conditions, and we are extremely satisfied with this major achievement. The project will not only provide a dark fiber network to link the main Spanish research and academic centers in the peninsula, but it will also allow a dark fiber ring to be established with Portugal and to send the dark fiber to include the astronomy parks in Canary Islands. Without a doubt, REDIRIS Nova is a great challenge, but the REDIRIS team will make every effort to fully implement it and to improve the best technical evolution to our users. As always, the Terena Networking Conference has a plentiful supply of ideas to share among all of us over the next few days. The conference program is packed full of interesting talks that are searching to attract your attention. In the new global research framework, the research networking community is doing its best to develop innovative services that take users' experiences to new levels. It's really a fascinating time for networkers like us, and I hope you are as excited as I am to have access to all new ideas that will be presented during the conference. We certainly have the best setting to enjoy such a conference. Ever since Phoenicians landed some 3,000 years ago, Malaga has been enriched by various civilizations that have passed through and left their mark on our land. From the times of the original Phoenicians and Greek harbor through to those of the enlarged Roman fortress, active for more than 6 centuries, or when it was the larger Moorish city and port of Al-Andalus, famous for figs and wine, or when it became the Christian city again after being conquered by Isabella and Ferdinand in 1487, Malaga, as well as its citizens, has always established close ties with the visitors, working hard to learn the new technologies they bring and how to integrate them in order to improve the standard of living. We are offering you the opportunity to discover Malaga's history, which is all around you as you walk around the city. It's not difficult to imagine yourself back to the Roman times as you stroll around the Roman theater, or at the Moorish court if you enter in the Alcazaba Castle. Don't miss the splendid court of Isabella and Ferdinand at the cathedral, or the nearby 16th century palace that houses the Museum of Fine Arts. Malaga also offers you the possibility to enjoy the works of its most beloved son, Pablo Ruiz Picasso, at the museum that bears his name. Millions have chosen Malaga as a location for their holidays, and an increasing number have chosen it as their ideal place to live. I realize that we will be very busy with interesting sessions that will follow, but I do hope you will also take time to enjoy fascinating Malaga with its lovely Mediterranean setting, delicious cuisine, and friendly people. The conference is taking place in the Faculty of Law, as we can see before, of the University of Malaga, and I think this will give us a good opportunity to get in touch with other groups of academic community. Terena is all about bringing people together, as each of you in this room has valuable ideas and experiences to share. In that respect, we would like to make a special mention of the many interesting speakers announced in the program for this year. No doubt, these speakers will turn this conference into a wonderful learning experience for all of us. I wish you all a very playful and productive work. Thank you for your attention. I wish to give the floor to Ms. Dr. Olsen, the President of Terena. Please.
Thank you very much, dear hosts, dear Mr. Glimas, dear participants. So we are here again for the annual Torino Networking Conference, and I really want to welcome every one of you. I think it's wonderful that so many people, again this year around 500, are coming together every summer for this big annual event. During the past 6 years where I've been president, also Torino has been arranging a number of other workshops and smaller get-togethers, but still the Torino Networking Conference is the big annual event, and we can see that also from this massive interest with all of you coming here to this wonderful city. Now, we are also very thankful that this year our Spanish member and the University of Malaga have taken upon themselves to arrange this conference. Every year, this is a big challenge for the host because so many details have to be seen to, so much really has to fall in place in order for everything to function. But every year we have had a country taking up this challenge, even though all the successes of recent years makes it even more difficult every year to meet the challenges again and not disappoint people who last year had such good service. Now I am very convinced from what I have already seen that this year will certainly live up to expectations. I have noticed that we have a fantastic first here, a real pioneering thing going on. We have EduRoam on the buses. Have you tried it? How many of you have tried the EduRoam on the buses? Yes? And it works? Yes? Good. Good. So, I mean, this is a fantastic new idea, and I think we should really thank our Spanish hosts for thinking of this, for getting this to work, and also, of course, for all the other efforts that they have made to make this a really fantastic event. So once again, also welcome not only to all of you, but a very warm thank you to our Spanish hosts for all their efforts, both the Spanish Research Network and the University of Malaga. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dorte. And now I will now give the floor to Mr. Konstantinos Linos. He's the head of GEAN and Infrastructure Unit of the Directorate General of Information Society and Media of the European Community. Please, Mr. Linos.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor to be the first speaker in the Terena conference. I would like to thank Terena and the organizers, and in particular our hosts, Red Iris and the University of Malaga and the Law School in particular. How do we get the picture on the... How do we go to the first slide? Okay, I'm sorry about this. So what I would like to talk to you today is about ICT infrastructures for e-science and the related communication that the European Commission has made in March to the Council of the Ministers and to the European Parliament. This is the first time that ICT infrastructures or e-infrastructures, including research and education networking, make it to be discussed and become part of decisions at ministerial level in Europe. So in the first part of my talk, I'll quickly go through what the communication is about. So it starts by saying that science is today more important than ever. It's more important than ever because the future of our societies increasingly depends on science. And then it argues that ICT becomes more important than ever for science itself, because the adoption of ICT changes radically the scientific discovery process. And it is more important than ever for three reasons. One is because ICT allows, for the first time, to tackle problems that could not be tackled before through computing simulation. So the very small, the very large, and the very complex. It allows to experiment in silico with things that it was unsafe or impossible to do before. Secondly, because it reduces the cost of research by allowing access to and sharing of research, very expensive research facilities and instruments. And most importantly, through the networking, it brings people together, because science more and more today, and even more in the future, will be a matter for collaborations, not only for individual endeavors. So some people go as far as saying that actually it's not just an evolution, this is a revolution, and this is what brings the era of e-science, where the process of scientific discovery radically changes thanks to the abundant availability of in silico experimentation. So, to enable e-science carry out its role, we have been supporting for a number of years what is called e-infrastructures, in short for ICT-based infrastructures, ubiquitous research environments that you see there in the picture as horizontal lines that cut across the vertical ones. The vertical ones, you can conceive them as research facilities, large research facilities. You can consider them as disciplines. You can consider them as individual people or departments of university, whatever. I mean, the strength of ICT infrastructure is that they cut across those, bringing them together and allowing interdisciplinary work to be carried out. So in the Commission, we have been supporting a number of these infrastructures, and I start there from the bottom. Linking at the speed of light, GEA, Research and Engineering Networks, is one of the first ones, is the substrate, if you want, on which everything else relies on. E-science grids, we have been supporting them for a significant number of years. More recently, we have been moving to supporting European work on supercomputing. Europe seems to have the ambition now to go back into the supercomputing race and become even a leader in that. We are supporting experimenting in silico through a simulation visualization software, scientific software infrastructure. We have, a few years ago, started working on scientific data and data repositories and all the questions that surround this, and actually becomes one of the hottest issues as time goes on. And we have been also supporting the global virtual research community, so the users of these infrastructures to facilitate their use and to spread the knowledge on how to use them. In the areas that we have been supporting for a number of years, like in research engineering networks, GEA, or in the grid infrastructure, we can be proud in Europe to be leaders. In other areas, like supercomputing, for example, we have made significant progress, but there is significant still way to go. For example, the ISA there, it's a project of those mentioned in the communication, which is the pairing European supercomputing capability with that of the other regions that brings supercomputing resources to a large number of European users. In data infrastructure, we have already laid down the foundations in a number of areas, but further work is needed. But what are the challenges for the future? Firstly, world leadership requires ever-increasing effort. Actually, you need to reinvent continuously yourself if you want to be a leader. Sometimes, or very often actually, it's more hard to remain a leader than it is to become a leader from a non-leader position. You need to reinvent yourself because scientific progress poses continuously new requirements. Simulations will soon be at exascale level. People say in about 10 years' time. Quantity of data that need to be handled and transit through the networks increases at a mind-boggling speed. Yeah, we are talking already about petabytes of data, and in a couple of years we will be talking about tens of petabytes per month data generation levels. New application tools are continuously coming on stream. Networking needs to advance it at 100 gigabit per second. And then at the same time that all this rapid progress needs the support of the infrastructure, at the same time we need to provide sustainable quality services. So this is in a slight contradiction with the previous statement. On the one hand, you need to reinvent continuously yourself and being a leader, being in leading position, but at the same time you have to ensure sustainable quality services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to all your users. And then not only that, but ICT itself changes continuously. And hardware, as we know, with Moore's law, increasing performance continuously, software the same. So, as the communication says, infrastructures need to embrace new paradigms, new technologies, include research functionalities all the time, reinvent themselves all the time to support multidisciplinary teams to transform the bits, the bytes and the flops into scientific discoveries and engineered products. So the communication of the Commission suggests a three-level strategy, three vectors, if you want, to achieve these aims. Firstly is to make Europe a hub of excellence in e-science, so offer the best ICT infrastructure to enable the highest quality science. Secondly, ensure sustainable and continuous services of production quality throughout 24/7, and at the same time use the infrastructures and the progress we have made so far to go beyond in innovating and reinventing themselves, as well as using the infrastructures as a platform for innovation in the future, and taking advantage of the know-how we have developed to extend their use beyond ICT infrastructures for e-science as such, but to other applications like e-science, e-government, e-health, e-learning, as well as infrastructures for ICT research itself. So the communication at the end makes a call for action. It does it per area, so it does so for supercomputing, for data, for grids, and so on, and it does it also for networking, which is what I have focused on here on this slide. So it says that we call on the Commission calls on Member States to reinforce the coordination of their national and European policies in the area of RENs, of NRNs, in order to ensure persistent connectivity, higher performance, lower access barriers to distribute resources and instruments, in order to provide the services that I was talking about. Secondly, it acts on the NRN community and on the scientific and technological community, on you, to integrate within the European networks, within GEA, the latest technological trends, and to support and use the network as an experimental platform that will lead towards the Internet of the future. Is this reinvention of the network and of the services that go with it, of the functionalities that need to happen. And on our side, on the Commission side, it says that the Commission will continue to provide support to GEA in order to do the above, to help the above, reinforcing its capacity, and also reinforcing its global perspective, meaning that GEA needs to encompass both the advanced and the developing regions. So these are carefully chosen words and have specific implications for the European policy and for the Commission policy in research in engineering networking and education networking. But here I want to make a short parenthesis and tell you about another communication which was published about a month ago, and it is a communication about the strategy of the European strategy for the ICT R&D and innovation, so for research in information communication technologies. And one part of this communication says that Member States and regions should collaborate in the planning, implementing and sharing of ICT research infrastructures, building on the experience that we have accumulated in GEA and grids, examples for experimental facilities for network software and services. And the Commission would provide support for collaboration platforms in order to achieve this. GEA is such a collaboration platform. So the communication was made in March. Mr. Potocnik and Mrs. Reding, who are the responsible commissioners, presented it to the ministers in the Competitiveness Council on the 5th of March. Since then, it was discussed at Council, and 10 days ago, on Friday, the 29th May 2009, the Council arrived at conclusions. So at the ministerial meeting in Brussels, the ministers adopted conclusions that relate to ICT infrastructures and to JEAN. And among other things, these conclusions say, they highlight the strategic importance of the infrastructure, they say how important they are and so on. They say that they are key for Europe to overcome fragmentation and digital divide because they provide access to state-of-the-art facilities from wherever you are in Europe. And it asks member states to consider infrastructures within their national strategies and roadmaps. We'll go back into this and see what has happened. We'll report on this. And interestingly, it asks the Commission to ensure the sustainability of infrastructures in Europe, their global connectivity and their global interoperability throughout Europe, but also with the rest of the world, and their unimpeded use, so to remove any obstacles in the efficient use of the infrastructure we have. It also says that further conclusions might be arrived at by the Council at the next presidency. These conclusions were made at the Czech presidency, and further conclusions might be made on the next Swedish presidency. So what is the ambition that's coming out of all of this? And now I'm moving out of the communication. I think it's clear that we want JEAN to be the leading global research and education network. And to do this, by federating the NRN, the National Research and Education Networks, as it has been the case so far, so JEAN should integrate and use its NRNs as its base. This is the way it accesses its users. And it has to do this in order to serve global e-science collaborations. And you will notice that there is an implicit reconciliation we make here. On the one hand, it relies on the national structures, the NRNs. On the other hand, it has to serve global collaborations. And this is something that careful consideration should be given to find the appropriate structure within the JEAN governance and the JEAN models. Then it is clear that we want JEAN to lead in technology, to lead the Internet of the future, to be not only experimental platform for the Internet of the future, but also to create innovation itself. Internet itself has come out of this community, of the community of the academic networks. And at the same time, it has to ensure seamless production level services. This is a second apparent contradiction, because to ensure seamless production quality services, then it is to innovate all the time is disruptive in principle. But ways have to be found in order to reconcile also these two objectives. And to do this, we ask to join forces between the member states, the REN community and the Commission, and governance of the research and education networks in Europe is the key to success. So, and here are some guiding principles and that I venture to you as maybe basis for some discussions, informal discussions during the next days, in order to help research and education networks in Europe make it to their future. We need to be guided some principles that this community has agreed as common principles. What could they be? Example. One could recognize that research and engineering networks is a public mission, and since JEAN is funded at European level, a public mission at European level. This has implications, if accepted, in terms of the universality of service, in terms of the equal access that would need to be provided to the different REN communities throughout the countries. And minimal fair access would be necessary anyway in order to satisfy the objective we have to bridge or to make progress in bridging the digital divide in Europe. A second principle that could be recognized is the technological leadership principle, that by definition, JEAN has to be leading the world in networking technology, to have a world-class e-science infrastructure, and also to pioneer the development of new communication technologies and new ICT technologies in the context of the future Internet. but also to use Jean, as I said before, as an innovation platform for other areas like, for example, e-health or e-learning. Third principle, one could recognize that it's not about connectivity only, not only about connectivity, it's about services. And then if it's about services, one could make the suggestion that there should be a common service portfolio within the limits of the ability, of course, of each national organization, each NRN or GIAN as a whole. There should be agreed service obligations. Whom are we serving? What communities, what facilities, or what organizations, or what projects? There should be also production-level services, we said before, with efficient delivery workflows. So it should be oriented towards providing services, and if this is a principle, then I think there are natural consequences that flow out of it. And finally, I think we have recognized, and the ministers especially recognized, that GIAN having a global reach, or its vocation should be global. And therefore, if its vocation is to be global, we should have a policy. We have to have an approach. How are we going to attempt to make GIAN having global reach? Till now, we relied on ad hoc initiatives coming from various NRNs or from various other communities, or very often from initiatives of the Commission to launch a study to connect to Africa, for example, to GIAN eventually, or other regions of the world. We need to develop a policy for that. So in conclusion, we have a new impetus for infrastructure development through the discussion that takes place at this time at a high political level with the communications that have been recently published. GIAN itself is at the turning point. We have a renewed commitment from the Commission to support GIAN. We have 93 million euros that were published last year in the call for proposals, and on which we hope that soon we have a new generation of GIAN, GN3, that will be funded. This is a very, very significant European investment. But at the same time, we have challenges. We have technology challenges, market challenges, we have challenges in terms of governance for GIAN to lead in the future, and including to lead the future internet. And on the political process, FP8 discussions are starting already. So these programs, as you know, they go until 2012-2013, then we have the next framework program. It is time to take a distance for us and take stock, see where we are, what we have achieved, and how could we face the challenges for the future that I described before. And I think that the Terena conference this year is an excellent opportunity and forum to discuss such challenges and opportunities. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Kinos. Well, I don't know if there is a space for one question, if you have. No? Well, we can give the floor to the speaker, Mr. Jorge Cortel. Jorge Cortel is the president of the Oxford University Society in Valencia, and is the CEO and chairman of the Cantenor Systems. And we will have the speech of the opening. Please, Jorge.
Okay, thank you very much to the organization for inviting me, and thank you, almost all of you, for staying awake during nap time. Thank you. Now we're all here. I know it's hard, it's Malaga, it's nap time, it's hard, but I think it's worth it, if only because of the fun. They left because the blood may be spilling out of the screen to the table, but he's brave, he's staying there. So when I was invited by Super Victoriano to this conference I have to think about it twice because it seemed like a great challenge to speak on technical level to some of the greatest minds in science present here today. But on second thought, thinking about it, I came to the conclusion that just for the chance of seeing you wearing those goggles might be worth it. So I'm going to give it a try. I'm here to talk to you about augmented reality in the operating room. Now, I've adjusted the level of this talk because I'm going to talk about healthcare, technology, and some of the things. So I've taken the lowest minimum level. So if you find something that is not technical enough, or you have any more questions or anything, I'll stick around later so you can ask me anything. But just so everybody understands, let's start here. The history of augmented reality. In 1989, the term of virtual reality came out. Now, you've seen the picture. We've all played with virtual reality devices, video games and stuff. It's just, the virtual world. It's there. World of Warcraft, whatever. Yeah, nobody plays that here, I'm sure. But, no, of course not. But that's virtual reality. We're going to talk about augmented reality. That comes up in 1992. And it has this look and feel. Now, we're using this every day. Sometimes we don't even realize it. But when rich people take their BMWs to have it serviced, they might be using virtual reality with technicians. When practicing golf, or when using the latest generation of GPS navigators. So augmented reality, it's coming into our everyday life, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, we have this great virtual toys, great virtual information, and if we don't integrate it in the real world, there's this divide, virtual and real. So it makes sense that we're mixing it, and that's when you got augmented reality. Now, how about healthcare? That was my question. Why don't we apply it more? And of course, there are tests and trials in this area, but we think we've taken it a step further. Let's see. Here you have virtual reality, not augmented reality, in healthcare. Now, that's a real heart taken with via CT scan, rendering in 4D in this case, volume rendering with time, and that's virtual because even though it comes from a real person and it's showing is the representation of a real heart, that's virtual because it doesn't integrate with the real life. Okay, so just so we make sure we see the difference, that's virtual reality in healthcare. Now, virtual reality may have you don't have to put the goggles yet. This is not stereographics. It's funky, but it's not stereographics. This is also virtual. It's one step further, and it adds extra information. In this case, we got the 16-bit color lookup table here, by which you can see soft and hard body tissues at the same time. But it still is one step short. Of course, we've all seen this, and hopefully none of you have had to have this done, but that's also virtual. Now, again, we got some real information, we got some real patient, but you got virtual information, virtual images. This can be taken to the operating room. You've got pre-advanced visualization of what laparoscopic procedures are like. That's like having a GPS navigator telling you where to go, or showing you what you're going to find in front of you. But that's still not augmented reality. So what is augmented reality in the operating room? Let's see. Now you can put your goggles on. This is the moment I've been waiting for, because while you're trying to find the right angle to see if that thing really sticks out of the screen or not, I'm looking at you and having a lot of fun. That is I would say, final step to virtual reality. Now, bear in mind, those are not the pro-level goggles, and that's not the pro-level screen. So, in real professional usage, it really helps. If you're trying to locate something spatially, and we'll talk about it later. But that's like the latest step in virtual reality. That's how far you can go without integrated in real life. That's like trying to stick out of the screen, but it's still really not coming out. So that's as close as it gets without being able to touch it. That's an example of a 3D volume reconstruction in virtual reality, stereographics as we call it. That would be a tiny bit step further. That would be 4D stereographics, like 3D with time moving. And like I said, watch out for the spinning block. This is where it comes. In this one, I have to show you on this screen. This one is almost augmented reality, but it's not, because we're interacting. So this is interactive virtual reality 3D volume stereographic reconstruction. Now that sounds very technical, but really it's not. You know, just as you can see, it's child's play. I mean, if I can play with it. By the way, does anybody know what this is? If somebody finds out, tonight they get a free espeto. That's a dog with a serious circulatory problem, but it could be a fish or it could be anything for all we care. That's why I say I have to adjust the level of this talk, because you know, if you were doctors, I'll be like, well, a doctor in the house, tell me what it is. So that's as far as we can take it. Now, when does it become augmented reality? Now, that's where you can get rid of the goggles and I've had my fun. When you mix things, you can take them a step further and you like put them in real life. This is the setup that we've come up with. This is not 100% our idea, of course. I don't think anybody anymore, if anybody ever did, thinks that they came up with an idea. I mean, that's maybe in the old ages, but not today. Today, nobody does have a great idea by themselves, isolated. Of course, this project is not 100% ours. We've mixed other projects, information, and that's I'll talk about that later when talking about networking. So the final result, which is what really matters, is we got this projection system in the operating room, not your typical projector, but nonetheless a projector. We got this KDS workstation, the computer software and hardware that you can do those things that we've seen before, the volumetrics 3D and stuff. We got a wireless remote because the surgeon cannot bother with mouses and stuff. You know, they need a wireless remote. So they got the remote on one hand, the cable on the other, and they're dangerous. And they can manipulate the image. And now the key here are these two things here: distortion adjustment and anchoring points. I'll talk about this later. So basically, what you got, you see down here, this is a surgery that took place in Japan. A great doctor called Maki Tsukimoto. Here you see the image projected on top of the patient. Now, with all the distortion adjustments and all these anchoring points and all these measurements to make sure that this is correct. Now, we don't want distortions to get in the way and then think that the tumor is here and then happen to be here. You know, it'll be a problem. Once we got this solved, what happens is that the doctor uses this remote control and can peel off the skin, peel off the muscles, peel off the veins, peel off, you know, eventually they end up with whatever they're looking for. And it's projected on the body. Now, why is that important? Because that way the doctor can locate exactly what they're looking for. Say it's a tumor, say it's a vein that is obstructed, say whatever they're looking for, they can locate it before cutting. Now, most of the people here, most likely, since you're not surgeons or probably not even doctors, well, just PhDs, but not medical doctors, most of you are probably thinking, well, medical doctors already know that. Surgeons already know that, right? When they open you, they already know what they're looking for, where it is. Well, I'm sorry to tell you they don't. That's why you got these big scars. You know, they took this tumor this size, and they got this scar that covers its full body. Because most of the time, they get from the anatomic pathology, they get this report. From radiology, they get this report, and they say, you know, it's located in this area, below this, behind that, and you find your way. And that's what they do. They open, they stick their head in there, and they cut things. ridiculous as it sounds, that's the way it works. A little bit more advanced than that, but that's basically it. With this system, what they can do is they can see before cutting. And once they mark, they can go through it straight, or maybe not, but at least they know where it is. So they minimize the impact on the body. And that, later we'll see all the advantages it has. They're major. So, getting a little technical. Not too much, like I said, but a little technical. The optical distortions. These direct projected augmented reality systems, obviously, as you can very easily imagine, some of you here are quite some experts on this area. You project onto a surface that is not even. Sometimes you don't even get this cenital projection where it's straight. Sometimes it's slanted. So obviously the projection is going to be distorted. So you got to think about geometrical distortion due to this non-planar surface. You got to think about this viewpoint ignorant projection where the projector doesn't know where the surgeon is going to be. Surgeons move. Once they move, if the projection is not on an even surface, the distortion is going to change. So you got this radiometric distortion where the color modulation changes by the surface, because sick people are usually the same color but not always, so you can't count on them being yellow or blue. And then you got the people laugh about that. Probably you were sick not so long ago and you're thinking that's not funny. I agree. And then you got the uneven projection, non-uniform brightness when the projection is not straight. You got the issue of the anchoring points. Even if the projection was on a flat surface, even if it was straight and everything, you got to put the right zoom and the right pan and the right, at the right place. Like I said, you can't move it. So you got the anatomic abnormalities. Some people have their heart in the wrong side. I'm not talking politics. I'm talking anatomically. Some people have some part of their body that might have changed since the last test. The doctor may not even be aware of that. Some say cancer that is evolving inside you. So that's pathology evolution, that things happen within your body. And then you got reduced image area where the imaging may not be of the full body, and then, they're looking for a problem here, but then the imaging might be done up to here. So those things got to be taken into account when programming the system. So at least it warns you if something is not how it's expected. Because we don't want mistakes in the operating room. And then you got the spatial localizations issues. Like I said, localizing things in 2D is hard enough. Localizing things in 3D is pretty tough. So we got metabolic cost deviation. Like I said, things in your body changing and displacing other organs. I don't want to get too gory here telling you how some things squeeze and blood spills and stuff, but that happens. We got anatomic cost deviation, and we got, again, pathology evolution. So we got to take all those things into consideration. We did. If I got all technical, you'd probably be like, algorithms, and that's wonderful, but it wouldn't be good for anything. Like I said, if you want this technical info, you can contact me later. But once you get all those things into account and you put the system together and you test it and it works, you get these benefits. And it's great because, number one, it's less painful for the patient. Number two, there's less medication to be given to the patient. Not only in benefit of the patient, but also in benefit of the national health systems, which we do have in Europe, which is great. You got lower risk because if the incision, the cut they're going to do on you is this big, it's less of a risk than if it's that big. That's quite obvious. You got all that comes down to lower cost for everyone, and that's a fast, easy, and affordable system. So that's a lot of benefits and really without any drawback. How was that possible? Are we great, wonderful scientists and engineers? Well, the people that work for me, maybe. I'm not. I can guarantee you that. But how we did it, it's collaborating. We took 3 individual projects, apparently nothing to do with each other, and we put them together. And the thing is that those 3 projects were taking place in 4 countries. Well, you're networkers. You know how it works. We took those projects, we took those people, we took the networking infrastructure, and ta-da, it worked. The tools we use, I think this is for the media. I don't have to tell you that you can use P2P networks for collaborating among you, not only for downloading movies. Email, instant messaging, who doesn't use it today? I mean, most of you are probably checking your email right now. Whiteboard and cloud computing. We use CMS and CDS for content repository and versioning and all that. And of course the web servers and browser. So we use a mix of tools. But I want to make a point about P2P network usage. This is very important. Without P2P network usage, we couldn't have done it. So when politicians regulate the technical area and the infrastructure, they got to keep in mind that not only big media companies matter, patients matter, scientists matter, and we do need those tools. So that's got to be taken into account. So thank you for your time. Thank all those engineers that really are the ones leading those projects and the great minds. Thank you for the organization for this wonderful opportunity. And like I said, I'm open to any question or any request for further info, but the way that we network here really is not through the use of all that technology. Like I said, that's for the media. The way we network is through some glass of wine and some spit to doing dinner and things. So although I will be available here, I will also be available at dinner tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jorge. I don't know if is there any question in the room? Yeah? Upstairs? Yes?
Thank you for your presentation. I found it really interesting. Can you say just a few more words as to why? The P2P was so important to the collaboration? And let me stop there.
Okay. Right. Well, the networking and the collaboration was extremely important because, as you can imagine, there's a wide range of specialties into this one project. There are doctors and surgeons, there are experts in optical fields and imaging, there are software engineers, and ours is not a large organization, so we can't hire all those people. And we took those three projects that were already going on, and they were far apart. So the only way that we could make something out of it is use collaboration tools, because otherwise it would have been impossible.
The P2P aspect of that.
Okay, perfect. Well, P2P, as a matter of fact, it's a mix of technologies. You're using it when you're using, for example, instant messaging. Most people know, but it doesn't go through a central server. But mainly for distributed computing, that was our first approach, although it wasn't the final, because we found an algorithm that optimized it, so we didn't need this network of computers working at the same time. But at first we did it that way, but also for distributing files, basically, because not all of us were in the same networking, and like the previous presenter said, if all those networks were confederated and they like interwork better, it might have been easier. But since some of us were on public networks, others on academic networks and stuff, it wasn't so easy. What we did is use P2P as a way of sizing down the files and not taking into consideration what kind of broadband the user had. Because some people work from home, some people work from the university, and that kind of gave us a leveling playing field, the P2P technologies.
More questions? No questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we finish the session now, and I think it's a coffee break outside in the room. Thank you very much.